Hi, and welcome to the 36th installment of Keen Minds, where we're covering the second part of the characters for Mr. Kaplan and Mr. Kaplan the Conclusion. I am Jen, aka Takata Saiko,
And I am Tessa.
and we are jumping back in. We had to cut it short last week because
Well,
there's
not short exactly.
well, by short I mean we had to cut it in half because it got too long.
Yeah. Well, it was an episode with so much in it, it's not a surprise. I mean, we just had so much to talk about, and we left, we had, Ressa was certainly pretty juicy there in the first part of 421 and 422. But I mean, we left
Everybody
Kate.
was.
Yeah. Oh, it was really, and this is a John and John episode, so you can tell that it's a John and John. Now, I'm surprised we didn't get any down enough episodes this season.
He's been quiet. I don't know what's been going on with him. I think he got off social media, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
It's
He was a follower of mine, so I'm a little
little sad.
bummed out. Yeah, I like
Aw.
hearing from him.
He reminds me of a buddy of mine that I knew in college. They're probably about the same age. And so, like, he kind of looks like him. He's got the same sort of gruff personality with that really sarcastic humor. He just kind of reminds me of him. And so I've got kind of a special place in my heart for Nob because of
Yeah.
that.
I'm sad that we didn't get to see one of his episodes because they're usually pretty intense. But I think that he was also involved somehow as a producer in Redemption, so that may have taken, I think that he was producing both, and that was it must have been pretty intense. I'm amazed that John and John actually got the time to do the.
I don't think those men slept this season. Like, I'm wondering if their families saw them. Everyone was talking about, you're so quiet on social media. It's like, they're not sleeping, guys. Give them a break.
Hmm. This was intense. Where do you want to start?
Let's just jump in. I feel like it's all going to sort of intermingle, but let's start with Kate. And something I noticed that I thought about, I definitely want to go over. We have a new top blacklister. Tom Keene has been the top blacklister since season 2, the highest ranking blacklister, closest to number 1. He was number 7, and that was back in season 2. Mr. Kaplan was number 4.
So we're definitely scaling that. Is I find it very interesting because I know that somebody has said that the feel that is just like who's more close or what. I have still a feeling that the numbers of the blacklist are telling a story, and it's interesting that Mr. Kaplan is number 4.
It's very fascinating to me because there are some people that, well, I think that the writers and everybody knew that they were coming, that Red didn't know were coming, like Alexander Kirk. In earlier in
Mm-hmm.
season 4 when we ran across Kirk, Cooper made the comment to Red. He said, well, when you put him on your blacklist, you had to have known this was a possibility. And Red said he was never supposed to be on the blacklist.
Yeah.
And so we know, and obviously Kate was never supposed to be on it. And so I think it's interesting that there are people showing up on it that Red's just sort of rolling with it. And I think also, we've never seen anything that says that the numbers that they're giving us for the titles of the episodes are actually Red's numbers for the people.
Mm, true. I mean, I think that I found a sort of code. I'm not near cracking it. I would need a couple more, but definitely, it was interesting to see Kay go to number 4.
Yeah.
I mean, that is. I mean, you got only 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that everybody kind of knows that number 1 is Raymond Reddington.
There's a good possibility, yeah. I definitely could see that. Red could be, maybe it's Red, Liz, and Katarina. Maybe. You never know.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if Jennifer Reddington is going to show up in there.
you know, I'm curious about her because I believe John said that she's coming back around. I'm very fascinated with Jennifer. I'm fond of the name. I mean, don't know why, but
Hey, you can take it as your personal tribute.
yes, because they certainly know who I am. All the sarcasm there. I think they have a clue who I am. It's all right. I'm okay with that. But no, the numbers are interesting. I've never really been able. I've never seen the pattern there. I'm a fan of patterns, but I haven't figured out the pattern, and I will be fascinated to know what it is.
This is what I found so far. The numbers do tell a story, and it's a story that Red is telling Liz about her family. That's what I found. And it generally goes as it's, and that is the reason what I found that they have the numbers sometimes are bizarre. For example, sometimes you get a name blacklister that plays a very minor role when the entire action is about somebody else. So why have this person as the number? And I found that because it is telling a story, who the blacklister is, and it's generally in Red's words.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so, why is the blacklister the freelancer? It's not Floriana Campo. You have others, the forecaster, or there's a few that have happened like that. They're not the real blacklisters. We've had blacklisters that have very funny names, like which is the guy, I always forget his name. It's not the cadaver, but he looked like the Undertaker.
Oh.
The Undertaker, he was in the name Blacklist, but his name was, Milton Bobbitt. So why do that? So in general, I think that there is a pattern, and I think that...
No, Milton Bobbitt was just Milton Bobbitt.
Yeah, Milton Bobbitt, but he was called the Undertaker. His name...
Okay,
His name
Sorry,
is...
I'm thinking the caretaker in season 3.
Yeah, the caretaker. And yet, he wasn't really that blacklister.
No.
I mean, there was a lot of action happening that didn't have to do with him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all very interesting. Now, what do you think about Kate's plan? I mean, she had
so many layers to it. That's what fascinates me. I love that in early season 4, they started this episode, or this season, with Red telling her that she was out of her league and that she needed to know her place. She was the cleaner. She was not the planner. And he went into great, sarcastic, harsh, biting detail to remind her of her place, that she was not a planner.
She was not the strategist.
And yet she was able to take apart his empire. She proved him so wrong in that. And this guy's been kicking himself for it the whole way through. For various reasons. But I loved the different layers to it. I think that she, much like she told Liz, she was getting tired by these episodes. It was just like, she had done all of this. And she made the comment when Gale came back, he goes, "You didn't run." And she said, "Just standing here is making my head drop."
Head flare. Yeah.
Head flare, yeah. And so, like, she's in pain, she's tired, she's sick, she just is done. But she can't be done until it's over. And so...
Now, let me ask you something. What do you think about the object of her plan was? Because you say that she's done, but what is exactly that she wanted to do?
I think she wanted Liz to find the truth. Now, what that truth is, I don't know yet. I mean, because she made the comment to Red at one point. She said, I was so
focused on you that I lost track that all I had to do was to give her the truth.
Yeah. And so, like, I think she wants to drive a wedge between them. I think she wants to try to keep Liz as safe as possible, but in the end, keep Agnes safe. Because she told Liz at one point, she said, "I've already failed you. It's Agnes that I'm thinking of now." And so I think her thought process is if she can take the mother away from Red. That'll take the child away from Red, and they will be safe to move forward. And so that's where her mind is in it. And
Now,
she's got several different ways of doing that. Now, taking apart the task force, Red had a very good point. He said, you've hurt one of the few people you love trying to get this done. Because she killed Baz. John came out and said that Baz is dead, which I still have not fully accepted yet. I'm very torn up over this. That Baz is dead, that she went after Wrestler, trying to rip apart the task force. She gave herself up to Gale and asked Gale to arrest her because, you know, the paperwork is gone, but she got me, and I can take him under. I mean, she was willing to go to any length, and it didn't matter who she hurt, going after it,
including Liz, because she was sending Liz to prison. There was what surprises me a lot of the times in the chatter that I hear and read here and there is that she was trying to save Liz. No, she wasn't. She tried to save Liz up until the point where she gets in her apartment and asks her to leave Red, and in that moment it didn't matter. Then she says, "This is about Agnes." So Kate wasn't. I don't know why Liz hasn't realized you were willing to send me to prison in order to separate me from my daughter. You know, there is, and then you start understanding the reasons for Katerina to say you're not to love her, because this is what love does. You know, this is the love when is not put together with the entire truth becomes a very dangerous weapon. I mean, she's proceeding, really, if you really look at it, there's no way Kate knows that Red is her father.
Yeah, probably not for sure. I mean, it's possible she does, but I have trouble with it. Maybe it's just that Kate was so conflicted. That's a good possibility. But when they were sitting out there on the, by the beach, and they were talking about when Kate took her hand.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get the impression she was going after Liz. She was still trying to save her. Regardless of what she said, she was still trying to save her.
How could he save her if she's in prison?
And that's what I was about to say. I don't know if she had an alternative plan for Liz. I don't know what... I mean, she had contingencies. And so I don't know how that fits in. I'm still kind of working my way through that.
Mm.
And it could be that she was... I mean, because I've made the comment to multiple people about multiple things in this show. I said emotions are not always... In fact, they very rarely are... They very rarely make sense. You know, you've got all of these emotions going off in Kate, and she's thinking of Katerina, she's thinking of Red, she's thinking of Liz, of Agnes, of everything that she's lost, and these things are rushing back to her, and it's just a hugely emotional situation. And while, yes, on one hand, she is surgically dismantling Red's empire and is making herself a very formidable ally, or very formidable enemy, I think on the other end, she was teetering on a very dangerous ledge with the emotional side of it. And part of her, I think, was willing to put Liz away to try to save Agnes, quote-unquote, save Agnes. But I think the other part of her, every time she saw her, just wanted to save Liz. Because she made the comment at the cabin, she said, "You chose me when you shouted for me." And then she asked again in the vehicle when Baz and the rest of them stopped the vehicle. She said, "If you get out, you're choosing him, not the truth." And like, I get the impression that she is very, I don't want to call her unhinged emotionally, but just rocking violently back and forth between what she wants and what she thinks she needs to do to fulfill her promise to Katerina.
So you have a much kind view of Kate than I do.
I probably do. I was so upset with her so much, but I do that with Red too, where I get so angry at him because things that could have been avoided if you just hadn't done such and such, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, this whole time, it's like, Kate, tell her the truth. You know?
Well, that is entirely my point. I mean, my dark view of Kate, of which I am actually among the very few that has this. I probably have the darkest view of Kate that I have seen in the entire fandom across many platforms. I think that Kate, when she started down this path, and she chose Red, I think that she was always keeping her options open. She was always keeping those interesting bodies in safe places and keep them in a way that they were not even bones. She was keeping them in plastic, in places that they were not, making sure that she could get to them when necessary.
At least she didn't keep them in formaldehyde baths.
Yeah, well, that's complicated. She probably didn't have yeah. Well,
And how would you have liked to have been that actress? Here, just duck down in here.
Yeah, that was fun.
Wow.
And she came out. She did good.
Yeah, she did.
She did really good. And Adrienne Lennox.
Is that her name?
No, Adrienne. It's not Lennox.
I was gonna say
it's Harry Lennox.
Okay.
I think it's Harry Lennox, and I think she's Adrienne Lennox. I think that is her name.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. Not sure though. But
I do miss Revan. I miss Revan terribly. I was glad to see even though she was playing a dead woman, I was glad to see the actress back. Is that weird?
Well, hey, in this episode, and now that we're getting into Kate and Red and Dom and Liz, I mean, I'm going to have a lot of things to say about them. Because this is I've been waiting for little things here and there, and this is the episode, and I posted that the probably rumbling sounds heard in the Eastern Seaboard was me doing a victory dance like every 5 minutes, and I was like, yes, I called it. Yes, I called it. So I was super excited. I've rewatched it probably 3 or 4 more times. I've also rewatched Kate May, the Artax Network. And all the episodes with Carla, and a few with Kate early days. I am convinced that Kate she was an ally of Red, but always keeping an insurance.
And that I can agree with. I can understand insurance because he's a dangerous man, and I do believe her though when she says she loved him.
Oh yes, and because I think that when people think that they love, she loves them, then that means that she trusted them. Those two things don't go together. You can love somebody and not trust them at all.
I mean, to be honest, Tom loved Liz in season 1. He didn't trust her, and that was his fault. That was the fault in their marriage, was that he didn't trust her enough to be honest with her. It didn't mean he didn't love her.
Many people that I don't trust to an inch of anything. Again, I love them. I just know that I can't trust them. It's to me, it's a very simple thing. But when I examine what Kate really did, when she saw Mato, she basically did whatever she needed to do to get Mato killed. Then she basically had Nikos tortured. I find very interesting that, every person that was responsible for her losing her beloved got dead or tortured or damaged or destroyed. So whenever you are tempted to look at her like, oh, well, she was a mass of emotions, well, that mass of emotions managed to get the man who sent Mato to get the Bond guy, and then that resulted in Annie being killed. Mato who was a guy who broke the jaw of the brother, got killed. Everybody is getting killed.
I do wonder if she ever went back after that guy that killed Annie. I mean, I just kind of assume he's buried somewhere 6 feet under in a wall somewhere, you know? He didn't survive that.
Yeah, I don't think so. But also, I found one interesting thing as I was rewatching Requiem, which is another one of those that I rewatch a few times. And I found that there is interesting that she was going to get more bodies. She just cut that trip short.
Mm-hmm.
But they were not going to be 86. They were going to be more.
Yeah.
They were going to be more, and she just couldn't get to it. I think when they got Philomena before they were supposed to, I think that she was supposed to go after somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
She also did go after Dembe in a particularly vicious way, because having Red believe that it was Dembe and intending probably to have Dembe killed by Red, that was nasty.
I think that was a test of sort. I mean, a test and or a vicious, going after Red in a very vicious way, in which she set it up to look like someone else close to him had betrayed him when he hadn't. And then she assumed Red would kill Dembe like he tried to kill her. And then, oh look, it wasn't Dembe, and then Red's just heartbroken over it because
it would be even worse.
Yeah, and that seems like pretty epic revenge. I mean, it's right up the alley. Like I think that's what she was trying to do there. Oh no, I don't think Kate was a saint. I'm not saying that she was. She did
I don't mean
unforgivable things.
Yeah, and also because to me it's very clear that when the moment she's contacting Gail, her intentions is to put away the entire task force. At that moment when she's negotiating immunity, she could have said, "I want immunity for me and Agent King." She doesn't say that. So to me, what she's trying to do, and it's very interesting, she says, I was so focused on destroying you that I lost track that all that I needed to do was to tell her the truth.
Yeah.
And we go back to that suitcase. If that suitcase had been something horrible that Red did and is going to drive a wedge between them, she would have gone for that first. Come on, that's an easy peasy thing.
Well, it's okay. Let's talk about the suitcase, because I've been
the suitcase.
Okay, I've been having some trouble with that because I don't think it's Katerina. I don't.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
And so, and I think that that's what they want us to think, and that's usually not the right answer. And so I don't think it's Katerina. Going from that, my question was, okay, I have to figure out, and I think I actually mentioned this in last week's podcast. I said I have to figure this out because I've got a story I'm about to work on, and that's huge in it. Like, you can't just leave that out, So what happened about the suitcase? What suitcase? There's no suitcase. We're pushing this under the rug. No, and so it's something that for me, whether I have to find a theory that I'm comfortable with, because I'm not the type of writer just to go, Katerina's the easy answer, go that way, because I don't think it's Katerina, ergo I can't go that way and write it well. And so I've been trying to wrap my mind around this, because you have Kate going in, and Kate apologizes to Katerina. And so
that means that Katerina either is Katerina or is something that Katerina didn't want.
Yeah, and so apologizes to Katerina. And then when Red goes, damn it, the suitcase is gone. And Dembe says something, and you may have the quote, because you're better at Red quotes than I am.
I don't think Liz is going to ever be ready to
forgive you for what you did to Katerina.
No, ready to learn what you did to Katerina, I think is the quote.
And so that makes it sound like it's Katerina. And it was phrased that way, it was worded that way, it was supposed to make the average viewer think, this is Katerina. And so that's fine. That's what they do, and it's a spy show. That's what they do. But I don't think it was, and so I've been trying to wrap my mind around it. And Blacklister214 over on Tumblr, and she made a post the other day, and I went, I love you. I was like, thank you. You just helped me so much. We started talking about that maybe it's not so much who it is that's in that box as what it would lead Liz to, because you're not just going to deliver a suitcase with a corpse in it to Elizabeth Key and she's going to go, okay, and walk off. she's going to investigate it. She's going to get to the bottom of it. She's going to find out what's going on. And so what if this individual is more something that Red and Katarina did together, or that maybe Red and Katarina were supposed to do together, and then Red betrayed Katarina, or Red thinks he betrayed Katarina, and, you know, like something happened to Katarina and he feels like he betrayed her. Something along those lines. Something happened, and that body is going to lead to that story.
I disagree. I don't think it would work. It's based on nothing that I can say, oh, that's totally wrong. It just, I wish I could put my finger in it, and probably need to make like 3 or 4 more posts to be able to be rational about this. But my sense is Kate is, among many things, she is rational, and she is a terrifically efficient woman. So if this is something that is going to drive a wedge between Liz and Red by any means, by the body itself, by what the body would lead to, by whatever truth it is, and this is very simple to do, and is going to accomplish getting rid of Liz away from Red without hurting Liz at all, why don't you go for that first? If you made a promise to somebody to protect that child, and you made a promise not to touch that, or you knew that the person wouldn't want that suitcase, but that gives up that child, that takes priority. And yet she doesn't do that. She goes after that after she has that immunity agreement, and after Liz have proven that she's not going to renounce of the task force or Red.
Well,
so it can't be.
Liz is also proven time. I mean, Red killed the man that raised her. He put a pillow over his face and smothered him to death. Mm-hmm. Liz is aware that Red murdered Sam, and yet she was able to forgive him for that. She's been able to forgive him for monstrous things. Mm-hmm. And so, knowing that, my question is, what could possibly be in that suitcase? What could possibly be... Who is that, or what does that lead to? That Kaplan is so certain that it will undo Red by Liz finding out, that she's willing to bring it about by her death.
I think that is the thing, what you just said. You're looking at it as if Kate is still trying to drive a wedge. And look at what she says. I was so focused on getting her away from you that I didn't see that all I needed to do was to tell her the truth. And she's trying to save Agnes by sending Liz to prison and dismantling Red Empire and sending him to prison or dead. So all is about saving Agnes, and telling and delivering this suitcase to Liz will eventually turn into saving Agnes, even if Liz is in prison.
So what do you think?
I think it's one of two things, and I haven't yet done all the logical groundwork to distinguish between them, but it's one of two things in my view. It is one thing that is something that Liz did that it would be so horrifying for her that she would step away from Agnes. And I go back to one very strange phrase that Red says in 101. She says, having a baby won't fix what happened in the past. That is a very strange thing to say to a woman. As, you know, just adopting this baby is not going to change anything. So I wonder if Liz killed someone, killed a child, killed a sister, and that is what is going to drive her to such a state that she's going to say, I am not a good person to take care of a child, and I'm going to get away from Agnes. Or B, because Kate doesn't think that Red is her father, she has never even pointed out. She in fact talks about you shouldn't go back in her life. You know, basically she's making decisions as if she's more qualified than Red, which means that she doesn't know that Red is her father, knows that she has an interest and loves her, but not that he's her father, that this is the famous third man, and is the man Liz killed, And she thinks that by delivering these bones, she's going to do a DNA analysis and says, this is my father, so it's an imposter, and I'm just going to step away from everything.
See, you say the infamous third man, but isn't that just straight up a theory on Tumblr? Or possibly a lot of places? I mean...
It's a theory in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I have actually I didn't start believing in it, but the more I analyzed it, the more I think that there is one.
I'm saying nobody has said on the show there is a third man.
No, they refer to the American, the blonde, and Raymond, all in the same sentence. So I always find that the Blacklist have a little trick, weird constructions. So, for example, there is there's one in which she's talking in the diary, for example, and she's saying, look at me in love with a man that I was sent to seduce, an American. Raymond wants me to take Masha and run with him. And the temptation is to say Raymond is the American who she fell in love with, and that, because that is what she tells Rostov. But that is a very strange construction. The construction would be, look at me in love with Raymond, the man that I was sent to seduce and betray, an American, and he wants me to run with him, take Masha and run with him. But how could I do that to Masha? She's my life. So the construction is bizarre, and whenever you find bizarre constructions, that's Red speak.
Maybe.
And so to me, that is there are little things. For example, Kate is so convinced that she's been getting answers that she doesn't see that she's not getting really any answers. Are you in love with him? Is it serious? She answers something else. Is he American? He says he's an assignment. It's like Liz asking, my name is Mash, and said you were born in Moscow. That's not an answer. You can be named Masha and be born anywhere. So to me, those are the little things that says that diary is not true. What Katerina was telling Kate is not true necessarily, all of it. And I think that Red was the one taking the blame for the affair, which I think they were having an affair, but I don't think he's the man who takes Liz. In fact, the man who takes Liz and has the fulcrum knows where the fulcrum is. Red has no idea. I think Red really went looking for Liz with Katerina, just as Liz remembers. You were there with a woman looking for the fulcrum, looking for her too. So if you put it that way, then Kate thinks that this man is the father, and Red is just this crazy man who loves Liz, and now the love got a little too crazy. Because if she thought there was a father, it would be very hard to behave as if she had.
I think Katerina behaves as Katerina does, a bit like Liz. Liz, you're gonna do what you want to do. You always have.
Oh no, Kate, not Katerina. Oh yeah, Kate and Katerina and Liz are very much alike.
Yeah, it's like I can see Katerina just
doing whatever.
Yeah, doing what she wants to do.
and I bet that she's very fluent in Red speak, and she's able to wrap her fingers around anybody and read anybody like books and just make them do whatever she wants them to do. Yep. The other thing I found intriguing about the suitcase is they're missing parts. There's no hands.
Huh. Interesting. Kind of like the missing thumbs from earlier in season 3.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, weird.
I hadn't thought about that. That is interesting. But, because it's me and I love Tom, I'm gonna take my moment to talk about Tom. Because I had, in my mind, I assumed that, because we saw Ryan's name pop up on both the episodes for the finale, and so I sat there the whole first finale going, is he coming? I thought he was going to pop up at the end of the first episode and maybe be there the second episode. Then he wasn't. I was like, okay, they'll probably have the birthday party at the end, and then there'll be some big reveal that'll lead into season 5. All right, it's going to be Daddy Tom. It's going to be cute, blah, 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 blah. And we get going, we get going, and all of a sudden, this person is going and opening up this locker, and I went, I know those hands. speaking of hands, I'm going, I know those hands, and he's opening this up, and I'm like, Kate, you're brilliant. You're dead, but you're brilliant. And Tom was the perfect person to choose for it, because you have a man who is going to know, no matter what, if Kate is alive or dead, because guess what? Even if nobody else is supposed to know, his wife is going to call him and go, Kate threw herself over the side of the bridge. Can you believe that happened? And they're going to have that conversation. It may not be that day. It might be several days later, but they're going to have that conversation because this is her husband. This is, her sounding board quite a bit at the time. He's going to know, even if someone else working for Kate couldn't get to him and let him know early, he would eventually know Kate had died. And so that is the perfect person, and above all, he is loyal to Liz and not afraid to cross red. And he has proven that time and time again, that he's loyal to Liz above anybody else, and that he's not, when push comes to shove, if he feels like being loyal to Liz is crossing red, he's willing to be loyal to Liz and not be afraid.
He's done it before.
Yeah, he's done it multiple times.
Yeah.
And so Tom Keene was the best option. And when it aired, when it ended like that, was like the haters are gonna go mad. The antis are going to flip out, and holy crap. I actually made a post that night. I was like, I'm getting ahead of the curve here because people are gonna go haywire. And this is fine. He's gonna go and give the case to Liz. This is not a big deal.
I disagree there. I don't think that he's going to just go ahead and give that case to Liz.
I think if there's a pause there, it's going to be to get it to a safe location to have someone out of Halcyon start doing the identification. That's going to be the only pause. Because, he's not going to walk into their apartment with their child. Here, honey, I have a present for you. Happy birthday,
Agnes.
Agnes.
Get used to it.
I know, right? Happy birthday, Agnes. Have your first dead
look
body.
what I got you. Yeah, that perfect present for a kid.
Hey, she's a Keen. Might as well start early.
I do think that Tom's. I do not doubt for a second that Tom allegiance is fundamentally to Liz, but I think that he is also likely to. He's been burned by this parental figures using them right and forward. They have used them over and over again to do what they need to be done. And I think that he may, do a little investigating of his own before he.
Well, I don't doubt that. I can see him starting. I have no idea how long it would take. I've actually got a question out. There's a group that they call themselves Script Such and Such over on Tumblr that take writing questions for various things. I've got a question out right now to a forensic group on how long it would take to identify 25 to 30-year-old bones that were well kept.
But we don't know that those are 25 to 35.
Well, I'm just making the assumption. It's as close as I can get to it. Unless John Bokenkamp would like to answer my question,
I doubt it.
Yeah, same here. And if he did, it would be such a roundabout answer. I wouldn't know what he meant anyway. But regardless, I have no idea how long it would take to identify bones like that. Or I guess dental records would be how they win, but what if they did...
that's another part missing.
Were there no teeth?
No. Not that I can see.
Of course there were. I knew there was a skull, so I just assumed there were teeth. I'll have to go back and look.
Here, it stops here, so I think that teeth were removed.
Of course she did. Damn it, Kate. Or Red, or whoever did it.
Yeah. It's a very interesting bag of bones because of the first they were not buried in the suitcase. They were buried somewhere else. Those are not preserved.
She didn't have the suitcase with her.
No. The original bones, the dead body was not buried in that suitcase and decomposed in that suitcase. That suitcase is intact. that suitcase did not have any organic material decomposing inside. Those bones were in dirt or in something. I suspect dirt because there is no animal chew marks, and those were caught with a proper cutting instrument like a chainsaw or whatever saw they use in medicine. But Mr. Kaplan seems to like the chainsaws, and they were and they have very little soft tissue attached to them, so those were not preserved like her bodies were. Basically what she did is mummify them by taking the blood and then putting them in bags and mummify them and created like perfect specimens. These bones were in dirt and were dug out and put in that suitcase after they were just bones. No more anything to decompose. And you see like the surrounding of the suitcase is clean, didn't.
Yeah, but Red knew it was a suitcase because he said that they had to find the suitcase. So
the
he
damn
knows
suitcase.
he knew it was a suitcase.
So he wasn't there when they buried it, and he knows it's a suitcase. And he obviously, whoever it is nobody that he cares for. He calls it the damn suitcase. It's not even like this person. How could you do this? How could you dig this person? I also think that the comment Dembe does at the end it's such a misdirection, because Red is one track mind. Red is on the suitcase. And Dembe is talking about what you did to Katerina, and we're meant to put it together like they belong in a conversation. But Dembe has done that before. Like, I don't think she's going to do well with this. Okay, she told you about the parental thing. You're her father, but she's not going to do well. And then I think that the clue to that is that Dembe, before that, Liz is telling Red, I couldn't walk away. I don't want to walk away from you. Even if I hate you, even if I occasionally hate you and distrust you and don't like you, or sometimes I love you, and because we're a family, and how could you do this to me when I've been looking for answers my entire life? You take away one answer you have easily. I am your father. So what is that Red did to Katerina that Liz will never forgive? And she has said this over and over in season 3 and in season 2. I want those answers, and I want that. So that what Red did to Katerina is prevent her from being in Liz's life. And I think there was some sort of like, great, if she's alive, is you go away and you never talk to her ever again. I will keep her safe, but you gotta get away. And that will be unforgivable for Liz, I think. I'm not a character analyst, but logically tells me that might be along the lines.
Yeah, and that might be it. That might be why she faked her death. Because I mean, Dom blamed Red for the fact that Katerina, quote unquote, died.
The choices he made.
And so, I mean, yeah, it could be someone that maybe Katerina killed, that Red was like, this crossed a line, you gotta go. That's interesting. I like that. That's another possibility.
Yeah, because I think it has to be...
He forced her out, and then that would line up once again with, yes, he knows, no, he doesn't know, because Red switched back and forth with, I knew exactly, your mother is dead. I used to think I knew what happened to Katerina, but now I'm not so sure. It depends on his mood if he thinks Kat's dead or not.
He always says, well, there is only one time that Red has said your mother is dead. All the times he uses this phrase, Katerina Rostova committed suicide. Katerina Rostova, and it's always a full name. So it's always,
to me, when I used to do that with Tom a lot. Back before Tom became family. Before he looked at Tom like family, it was Tom Keen. Now it's Tom.
Exactly, because once you put the when it's just the name, it's the person. But Tom Keen, he knew Tom Keen wasn't a real person. It was a main name. So when you use that, you can say, "Hey, Tom Keen was a teacher," and I'm not lying. He was a teacher. I knew him as a teacher. Yeah, I'm not lying still. I knew him as a teacher. Doesn't mean that I don't know him as something else. Kat Kenneth Rathers is a guy who befriended Zoe and, show her to her father to see that she wasn't dead. This is all true. It's not all the truth, but it's true. And I think that whenever, the only time that he said your mother is dead is in the church, because he was terrified that she was going to go out to meet her mother.
Yeah. And like I said, I think emotions have a lot to do with Red's reaction to if Katerina's alive or dead.
I think. What do you think?
I don't know. I go back on it, to be totally honest, I go back and forth depending on if I think he knows she's alive or not. And I told someone that the other day. I don't remember where it was. I said, give me any which day and I will be certain that he knows. And then something else happens and I'm like, I don't think he knows. I don't know. It goes back and forth for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that suitcase definitely. I mean, I could not have expected.
I do like that, Tessa. Thank you for helping to add to this, because I'm telling you, this is all helping work into my theories and something I'm more comfortable with using for my news stories. So between you and Blacklister, I think I'm getting there. That I've got something I'm comfortable with. So kudos to you guys. You've helped me write my story.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome.
I just think it has to make sense, and I don't think that is anything that Red cannot possibly be painted in a worse picture. Yeah. She had told,
but keeping her mother from her, because I don't think that he killed her. Ergo, keeping her from her is just as terrible. Because Liz, remember back
that's
in
unforgivable.
You
told me that my mother was dead, and she's been looking for me.
Yeah. Some things are unforgivable. Yes. Yeah. And that's what I keep going back to. So I really like that. Yes. Yay. Giving you a Skype high five. I like it.
I think it was in a way, this episode was one of the most perfect that I have seen in the series. They were, and people always say, and I've had that in Reddit. I'm very active in Reddit as well, and sometimes more because people discuss more theories. So you can go.
I have no clue what. I don't understand Reddit at all.
It's very theory like, and people do discuss more theories than anything else. So for crazy stuff, it's like it doesn't. It's great. But what was I saying about this? Where was I going with that, with Reddit?
Talking about it on Reddit, that we were talking about, oh gosh, hang on.
Oh, Katerina, knowing Katerina is dead or not, to me, I have my theory that Carla is Katerina, and Carla was just one of the names. And to me, of course, it's like, of course he knows she's dead. She's not dead. She says, Katerina Rostova is dead, like he says, your father is dead. Not the criminal, the Navy officer is dead. The criminal is alive. And so it's very interesting, and I recommend that everybody watches the finale and then goes and watches Kate May, the Artax Network, in Requiem again. It gives a very different understanding. And then you see Katerina being a very cagey woman. She was really manipulating things. And then there's something very interesting in all this that is happening is we tend to see Requiem as being the truth. And because it was said, this is the truth. She didn't have memory.
It's Kate's truth.
Yes. She wasn't making things up.
It's from her point of view. Her memories are not faulty, is what I don't remember the exact phrasing, but Saron said something like that. And so it's not so much that it is the absolute truth; it is Kate's truth from her point of view.
Exactly.
Very Obi-Wan Kenobi there. Yeah.
Exactly.
From her point of view, that is the truth, and it's very much that way. And hat tip to you. You were one of the ones that helped me kind of come to terms with that with Red, because I had a lot of issues with Red early on, especially once we found out who Tom was, and in season 2 when we found out Tom used to work for Red, I had issues with the fact that he was that he went after and told Liz that your husband's a horrible person, he's trying, he doesn't love you, he's trying to hurt you, and really led her to believe all that. I got really upset that he was willing to say all of that when he knew that Tom defected because he loved Liz, because he wanted to be with her. And it was, he didn't know it then. He didn't know it when he was saying it to her. And that goes back to what I was saying about, sometimes I feel like the way Red feels about Katerina, if she's alive or dead, is playing off of his emotions on if he thinks she's alive, if she's not, what his emotions are telling him. Kind of goes back to that, in which he's not 100% sure, so he sways back and forth. Kind of like I was saying with Kate, with, I want to protect Agnes, and if that means sending Liz to prison, that means sending Liz to prison. But here's Liz sitting with me. I want to take her hand. This is the little girl that I love, And, just that emotional upheaval that these people are in the middle of, and that Red has found himself in since reintroducing himself into Liz's life. He has taken himself out of the strictly business. You see so many of these people. Red and Tom are both very similar in this fashion. When it's just business, they are on the top of their game. They can do anything, and they can get away with anything, and they are, you don't cross these men. But when it's emotional, that's when they start making mistakes, when they get blindsided, when they get emotionally involved to the extent where they just go gung-ho at something, that this is my child, this is my wife, this is someone I care about, that I love, and the emotions take over, and it while they don't always falter on it, it makes them susceptible to faulty reasoning, where they wouldn't have been at any other time.
I have a couple of things to say about Kate. What did you think about that scene with the eye?
Okay, the roomie and I have a joke. Why is it always got to be about the eyeballs? Because both of us are super squeamish over eyeballs being taken.
I think everybody is squeamish about that.
It's a good thing to be squeamish about. Stop plucking people's eyeballs out of their faces, guys.
And Kate is like, good news, you're gonna live.
Bad news is your depth perception will never be the same. It's like, as soon as she said that, we were like, damn it.
As soon as they took him and he had been doing the eye thing, I'm saying, oh boy, no, oh no.
Well, she had a blanket that she was curled up with. She threw it over her face, and she was like, tell me when it's done. I'm like, why do I have to watch it? She's like, because I know you are. It's the bad car wreck you can't look away from. And he kept turning towards the camera with it, going, my eye. And I'm like, we know, honey. Turn away. Because I go, okay, it's good. No, it's not. Go back. Put the blanket back over. Oh, it was horrible.
That was an interesting.
I did find the wording interesting, because Liz is discussing Kate and discussing who she is and what she's been doing, and she's talking about the surgical precision in which she's been dismantling Red's empire, in which she's got the scalpel out, and you're like, okay, here we go, eyeballs, freaking eyeballs. Yeah. It was so funny. The roomie goes, I will never have an optic scanner. I will never be part of it. No one will ever take my eye.
Now, another interesting thing with Kate is, do you remember that one of the bodies they dig out is Newton Phillips?
Yeah.
Now, Newton Phillips was killed because he was compromised by the Cabal. The Cabal got him to get him information on Red so that they could plan the incursion. So does this mean that Gale is involved with the Cabal, that he's being a puppet of the Cabal? Because he said that these are people that they try to turn, and we know about Makotanita. So I wonder how many of these people really were against Red in turning.
I think that, now, not all of them, I don't think that he thought were people that they were trying to turn. I think that if Gale is linked to the Cabal at all, it's not intentionally. It's very much like Wrestler in Season 3, where he was
manipulated.
Yeah, where he was just following orders. And I could see Gale having gotten put together with a Cabal member who is a very well-respected FBI agent, who is basically giving him a leeway to go on this witch hunt. And
yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, and is being manipulated by it, and he's so gung-ho on getting to Reddington that he doesn't realize anything's going wrong. And if you don't, I mean, honestly, like, if I were to work for the FBI and someone, I wouldn't just automatically assume there was some big conspiracy. Most people wouldn't in reality. And I mean,
I would. But...
I was going to say, I'm a writer. I have a hard time saying, if I was not a writer, I would not automatically.
Good. Now I get it. Okay. Yeah.
Like, as a writer, I think there's a conspiracy everywhere, but then I have to remind myself it's not television, it's not a novel, this is reality. And then I have trouble coming back from it. Anyway, but most normal people, I don't think, see conspiracies everywhere they go, so I don't think that the Cabal is something... Now, Hitchin commented on it on national television when Liz first got released. And so the Cabal is out there. But that doesn't mean that Gail would automatically go,
assume that, yeah, you're involved with that.
Exactly. And so I could definitely see where there'd be a situation, be a great segue to bring him back in, because I don't think the Cabal's done. I think the Cabal's the big bad.
Oh, yeah. They're that is important. Remind me of that later.
Oh my gosh. You guys can't see it, but Tessa's face, what it just did. She reminded me a little bit of Gail right there.
Yeah, I need a little break. At least I'm not wearing plaid.
Hey, I was wearing plaid last week for anybody that... Tessa didn't trust a word I said last week when we recorded. I'm not wearing plaid this week. It's all like
no, she is not. She's trustworthy this week, and there's no plaid in that room that I can see. So it's. And they're talking about plaid. I knew Abe was in it because they've been plaiding that office ever before. When Red first goes in there about needing money and talking to Liz about the harem, there was plaid there, and there was a lot of it. And I'm like, that can't be just the accountant. That can't be just Zach Small, because after Zach Small is dead, there's still plaid all over. I'm like, yeah, you're in it.
No, I mean, this guy, he's sitting there, it's so funny, because it's very Red, talking about how he was skimming $1,000 off of him to pay for his mistress, and he didn't care because he was a wizard. I mean, it was basically like a bonus that, and it's just so Red. But I'm sitting there looking at this guy, and I'm like, you've got a wife and a mistress? Really?
Yeah, well,
sorry.
And he was going, like... But I knew that he was in it. And then I also started, as I was rewatching more and more things, I found more and more plot all over. Oh my God, there's so many things in this series that is nothing like what. But this kind of said I am right in my theory about the symbol of plot in the Blacklist.
For anybody that hasn't been tuning into us for a while, Tessa's obsessed with plaid. She's obsessed with the idea of plaid. It's not an invalid obsession, because like as soon as she brought this to the forefront, I started watching it. I'm like, she's not wrong. Everybody that wears plaid, there's something not quite right around them. Either they're lying, someone else is lying around them, something. And so it to the extent that in her birthday, the edit that I made for her birthday, she got a whole box of plaid.
There was plaid in it, yeah. And there is water everywhere in this episode. They meet by the water, they meet by the bridge. She falls in the water. There's an island. I'm starting to get so many shades of the Tempest here. The magic island with a key. And, it's like you're protected, so no extradition. I guess that would be like having Ariel and the spirits protecting the island. I mean, that's a, non-magical way of doing it nowadays. So
it's like magic.
Yeah. The two rabbits.
I love magic.
He comes Brimley with two rabbits. You don't get any more of that. And you're going to squeeze it out of somebody. Oh, that was beautiful.
Sorry, I'm looking at my notes because I have Brimley in my notes, and it kept auto-correcting it to Bromley, and I'm like, no, Brimley. Oh, okay, so we're kind of already shifted into Red, because, I mean, Red and Liz, they're all so deeply connected.
This is all a mashup because they're
It really is. Sorry, guys. We've gotten so much better about being more succinct, but there's really no way to be succinct with these three.
Not when an episode written by these guys.
No, they were so intertwined. It's great. It's great that way. But I found it very interesting, and John Bokenkamp made a comment in, I think it was an EW article that he wrote, talking about how they have really broken apart Red's empire, and he was talking about, I think he mentioned Brimley leaving and Baz dying and everything that's happened. I mean, he has no money left. All he's got is that
properties. I'm sure he has.
Well, yeah, he's got no liquid. Who was it he told Liz? I loved that phrasing. You're broke. I hate the term broke. I prefer illiquid. I was like, oh, Red. He's such a wordsmith, and I love him for it. I wanted to hug him on that.
That was such an acceptance. It was such an elegant way of accepting what she was saying.
Yeah.
Without really saying, your father, and taking it right into soap opera territory.
Yeah, but it was so Red.
Awful.
It was so Red, the way he handled it. Just, because he typically does not, on the big things, I've noticed, I'm starting my slow go through the entire series. I've noticed small things that he lies to her about. I mean, we've seen things. There was something I noticed, on the Courier, no, not the Courier, the second episode in.
The
Freelancer, thank you. He says, he tells her that he has the antidote. And then a couple scenes later he goes, there was no antidote, Liz. Or, Elizabeth, Lizzie, Agent Keen, whatever he calls her. She
was Lizzie then. She hadn't. Yeah. It's been a very slow transition into a grown woman instead of the 4-year-old.
Yeah. I noticed that Tom doesn't call her Lizzie anymore either. I thought that was an interesting switch. When they got back together, it's still Babe, but it's not. He's called her Lizzie once. And that's very interesting. I don't know what to make of that.
I think they're in a different. I think that when he started seeing it was, Lizzie. This is Lizzie and protect Lizzie, and she became Lizzie, a protective, a thing to be protected, a child to be protected. It was not a relationship of equal. So I think in a way she was more like childish to him, and now is Liz is a woman.
Yeah. I like that. Yep, there you go. Wow, thank you. You just helped me on a character development thing.
Wow. So. See, I'm learning from you.
Maybe I'll eventually learn theory. Who knows?
I think you're pretty good.
But there's but it's interesting that they're tearing it down so much. But Brimley leaving, it was very much, it was the beginning of that episode, bringing Brimley in. And it was kind of like this, no, not Brimley. But Brimley's been there for ages. It's like
19 years.
Yeah. And so, I mean, but we've talked about before how Red just instills this loyalty with this. And he does. He very much instills loyalty. And it's well earned for the most part. He knows these people. He cares about these people. I think Liz was wrong in season 1 where she said that he was a loner, that, he really had no friends. I think he does have friends. He knows them incredibly well. They just don't know him nearly as well.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that.
And I think that's where the difference is. It's not... I think they know pieces of him, but they don't know everything. There are very few people that know everything. And I think Dembe really is the only one, because Dembe was the one that went with him to Dom's.
Yeah.
And Dembe was the one that led Aram to Dom when he went there. So, and he said that Kate doesn't know about Dom. So I think Dembe is the only one that knows about Dom.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that he knows everything.
No, probably not. But I think that Dembe is the only one. So can you imagine if he actually had killed Dembe? Because you know that Dembe thought that it was a possibility after Kate.
Yes.
And, I mean, that's why he was running. That's why he wanted the proof. And so it breaks my... I was terrified they were going to do it. Because I know that James stopped Dembe's death in season 1 in Enzo Cleric, and I'm forever grateful to the man for it. But I would just be terrified if there were some, like, because honestly, if he did kill, I could see a situation which he did kill Dembe, you know, to in which it would affect the story in a certain way and take him down a certain path that would be great for the writing, but it would just kill me. Like, I'm so glad they didn't go down that route.
But Brimley was a very good choice to show this alive, because Brimley does it respectfully. Yes. He doesn't do it like, Abe or something. He just says, listen, I just wanted to tell you this face to face.
Yeah, exactly. He comes to him to his face. He says, here's the stuff you need, but this is the reason why. It was a life or death situation for him, that his health could not take another round of prison.
Yeah. And how about Don Julio?
That was interesting, and we haven't met him yet. No. I liked him. I kind of wish we'd get more of him.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was a very, very intriguing, because this is a man who basically is like, when he says, "I never seen you to be abrupt."
Yeah, and he was very, very abrupt.
Yeah, it was. There was. You could tell that how much of the respect Red has comes to the fear and the infallibility that he has, and how this Kate has cost him more than the money that he can make.
The respect.
What Cooper says, where do we go to restore reputations? Where is Red going to go to restore the reputation of a criminal that Kate doesn't know why he needs it?
I love Kate that line so much.
Yeah, because it's like and we've seen this. Where do we go for this? I mean, he already had his reputation damaged. He already was suspected of things. Reza was chasing Liz. Their reputation had been taking so many hits.
Yeah. And
where does Red go? Because a lot of this thing with Kaplan, I think, is because Kate doesn't know some key elements. In my opinion, what Kate doesn't know is, who is Katerina? Because she has no idea of Dom, and Dom is a close guarded secret. So whoever Dom leads to who Katerina is really.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't think Dom's story is over either.
Oh no, I think we're getting more.
But I was very happy because there was this, and I don't say terrible little theory like to diminish anybody's theory, but I say it in which I just hoped it wasn't right. It was one of those, like, every once in a while you come across a theory, you're like, I hope you're wrong. I can't handle that. My heart can't take it. In which Dom was a figment of Red's memories, like Katerina was.
Oh, I thought that.
Yeah, I mean, it was
It was my theory.
Yeah, no, there was someone else that said it as well, that we talked about it in a private conversation. Anyway, we discussed it at one point, and I said, I really hope you're wrong. I said, I need for Dom and that relationship to be real. And she said, oh, me too. We discussed it, and we were like, but it's a possibility, and that's scary, because I don't think anybody else saw Dom. Really only Red saw him. And then we went back and forth, and I had about decided that Dom was probably real, because you did see Dom by himself. And which was definitely a good thing, a good, because you never saw Katerina by herself in Cape May, and
no, in fact, they have a brilliant scene. I haven't really noticed it as well as this time that I rewatch after, in which Red is having dinner and they put the camera and he's sitting alone at the table, and then they kind of move the camera and you see that she's sitting there and you think, oh, she was just obscured by the column that is in front of her. No, he was alone, and they show you that. It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what I was gonna say earlier, was that they have about the Don Julio. We were talking about how much we liked him coming in.
Yeah.
These writers have such a great way of coming at. They'll introduce a new character and make it like you've known them for 4 seasons. You get 5 minutes of them, and it's like you've known them. I never questioned for a moment that Red had a long history with that man and knew him and his wife and everything about him well. And he did the same thing with Stratos. Yeah. Oh, my statement was, that recently after being poisoned, I wouldn't down an open bottle of wine like that. Pour it into my glass and down it. But yeah, I did notice that he poured it full and then just downed it. I'm just going, oh, Red, sweetie, it's been a stressful day. And I loved that comment he made when he's in the back room there, and he goes, have you ever had one of those days where nothing goes your way and people keep giving you the runaround? I'm having one of those. And then he threatens to run him over with a Porsche.
Yeah. And I think it brought... this episode had also something very interesting with Dixon, the character of the thief.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this was also a lot of parallels that we saw in this episode. You know, we got Dixon going into a secret government facility to obtain the immunity agreement, and we have Cooper going into a more or less secret facility getting a 30-year-old record.
Yeah.
And the shirt. So it was full of little interesting parallels. But Dixon was interesting in that Red did whatever he had to do to get the answer from Dixon.
I honestly was really happy he killed Dixon. Like, I know that sounds terrible, but like the moment he pulled him forward and started shooting him, and I went, good man. This is what I've come to expect from Raymond Reddington, and you have made me proud. Like, I really liked how that played out, how well he played. I mean, he played him like a fiddle. He just, every step of the way, it was very well done. And kudos to Red, and obviously, I mean, as always, James played it perfectly, so.
And Katharina had become as ruthless and criminal as Red, because she's there. I mean, Red at least has generally spared innocent people. Kate was killing people whose only crime was to be there or to be doing their job.
Yeah. Or sending people to kill them. Red says that he avoids that he's never killed anybody that was innocent. Yeah. I think that's up for debate.
He defines innocence in a very broad way.
He does, and it's also probably not defining what his actions, the ripple effect has caused, because other people have died because of, various things. But regardless, I mean, I understand what he's saying, and to a degree, you almost, if you're going to be in that situation, you've almost got to have that, every villain is a hero in his own mind sort of thing. You've got to have a way to justify it. And so he does some truly terrible things, and he's got a good purpose for it. I mean, he does it because he's trying to protect Liz. But he really does do some terrible things, and he's got to find a way to justify doing that. And so that's how he does it. And, I in this world, it's a very gray world, so, for the most part, I don't hold it against him. Sam I hold against him. Sam I will never forgive him for. I love Red. I will never forgive him for Sam, though.
I get it. I think I always saw in that kill there was a little nod. It was to me.
See, you see the nod. I do not see the nod.
Well, you know what? It reminded me of the scene with Gregory DeVry.
It did not for me. There was no. You may call it a mercy killing. I did not. I did not see it. Because I've gone back and specifically looked. When we first met, you were like, go look for the nod. And I'm like, okay. I went and I looked multiple times. I see no nod. I don't see a nod that says, yes, you may smother me and take my life away from me before I can say goodbye to my daughter. Yeah, do it. No, I don't see that. I see Red going, you're about to spill my secret. It's
what do you think about people saying about Dom, like, oh, he's lying to Dom because he could have just told tell him.
I have varying opinions of it, because obviously he did not lie to him. He thought Liz was dead. I mean, he didn't go in there lying to him. He went in to respectfully tell him his granddaughter was dead. He was showing the utmost respect he could for Dom when he told him your granddaughter is gone. Why he didn't get back and tell him that Liz was actually alive? Why
2 episodes is all he had.
I was going to say, it could have been a time issue, because even though he thought Kate was dead, he's still been fighting an unseen enemy. And so he's been going back and forth and doing things. And so I could see him going, I need to go do this, and just not having the time. He's been running like crazy.
by the harem, he's already under attack.
Yeah, I don't think it was a spiteful thing that he did or a mean thing. I do love Dom's reaction because, like, that face he made, my first reaction was, oh my gosh, she's about to give the man a heart attack. And then they're walking in the door, Dom, breathe, you're giving yourself a heart attack. And I was like, see? But I loved that comment about, why would you care? You can't care about anybody but yourself, because Red does appear that way very often. And sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree, sometimes I think that it's just his... I think that Red's good intentions are layered under multiple layers that look like self-indulgence.
Yeah, I think that selfishness is one of the main conduits that Red uses to hide his true intentions and his true motivations.
But I do think there's some selfishness there, because he couldn't stay away from her. I do think there is some selfishness there. I think that he had the best of intentions coming to her. I think he continues to have the best of intentions trying to protect her. I think Red's heart has always been in the right place. Whether he has made good decisions depends on the situation. And it's a whole lot easier for me as a viewer to make that judgment than it is for Raymond Reddington, who is living that in this world. And that's I completely acknowledge that I have the third person point of view here. I mean,
what do you think about Red calling her Masha? This is the first time that he has actually used Masha. In the previous time he's with Dom, he doesn't mention the name Liz or Masha.
Does he not? Okay, it's interesting.
No,
I couldn't
not
remember.
at all.
I did think that was interesting. I thought it was for Dom, because Dom knows her as Masha. And so I really thought it was for Dom, but he did continue to repeat Masha, Masha, Masha over and over again. And it sounds like the Brady Bunch there, Marsha.
I think that in that moment it got me back to the Night of the Fire, and we've been always very confused with the Night of the Fire, imagining that this man who has her has to be Red because he calls her Lizzie. But what if they just keep going with the name Lizzie because she was used to it? But what if Red calls her Masha? We just don't know.
I think it's a very select few people that call her Lizzie. I think there have been 3 people in her, because she's very particular about the name Lizzie.
Oh, Liz. I don't mean Lizzie as in
okay.
Just Liz. Elizabeth instead of Masha.
I don't agree with that. I think that Red has always called her Lizzie. I think that's a thing.
Okay, my theory, since we're doing crazy, is that they agreed to call her Elizabeth and never Masha, and now that everything is out, and he's about to ask Dom that if he doesn't come back to find her and get her, he's finally being able to call her by her name. Now that it's out that she's his daughter, it's like, okay.
I always got the impression that, and it's something I've run with in my fan fiction, that when she was born, Red believed that he was her father. Katerina was married to Constantine. Constantine and Katerina together named her Masha. Red wanted to name her Elizabeth. And when Katerina went with what her husband said versus what Red said, the father of the child, it was kind of a burn. It was a deep burn that he never really let go of.
That had been my opinion for the longest time.
And that's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, unless I'm probably going to hold on to that unless I see something that just breaks that theory apart.
I used to think that was my fear before. And this time when he said Masha, I'm like, okay.
And it could just be that she's becoming more like Katerina now. I don't know. Was it interesting to you that Liz acknowledged the certainty of the ties with Red? She's gotten to the point, I think she knew at the beginning. Like, she knew all through these two episodes that, because she walks in and you're expecting her to continue to be really angry over the fact that Red kidnapped her, you know, and she is, but it's kind of this, I could be angry and put it off, but it's still gonna, it's like she's finally come to terms with, yes, I could be angry and shove him out for a while, but all it's going to do is push off the inevitable when he comes back around and I give. And so let's just bypass all of that and go back to helping him.
I think by then, I think ever since she came back with that test with Rostov, it's been like, I mean, she doesn't know of a third man. So for her, it's like, okay, well, if this one is not the father, I guess that one is.
She's always suspected. And so, yeah, I do agree with that. And I think that she's willing to forgive a lot for that, including that horrible mistake of his in that episode. I'm still a little frustrated with him over that. It's like, you know better, Red. You're smarter than this. But it was interesting to hear her say, because, I mean, Cooper was even like, are you kidding me? He just kidnapped you. And she's like, yeah, I know. Our fates are tied to his. And it was kind of a continual thing. It's like it's fated to her. It's not just an if and then. It's deeper than that. It's fate to her, because it's blood ties and it's family, and it's I think that it just hit her very deeply where this is going.
She's been coming slowly into that realization, and I think it's also gone to Tom with what the things that he had found out about his own childhood and his own parents. And I think at this point, she's past trying to get the picket fence for Agnes, and I think that by now she's coming to this realization: I am the daughter of spies and criminals. He is the son of spies and criminals. Our little angel, it's going to be a spy and a criminal, or or choose to do something good with it. But that is there, and I think that is an excellent monologue that he gave about, she's not Masha anymore. Without any input from Red, she became Elizabeth Kin. And it's interesting that of all the people that Katerina could choose, she chose a criminal.
I did like those lines that Red gave to Kate when he was talking about Liz's choice of study, a field of study. With little to no input from him, she chose to study the criminal mind. That was brilliant. It really was, because it really is her. We've talked about multiple times that she really wore a mask in season 1. She and Tom both wore these masks in their first marriage, in which he was the, doe-eyed school teacher. She was the innocent, wide-eyed FBI agent. They really
doing things by the book.
Yeah, and it really was an act. And that's what Liz says.
They were both undercover.
Yeah, and that's what Liz says to Red. She said, you were afraid I was going to be like you. Well, you know what? I am like you. It came easy to me. Were you testing me to see if it came easy? It did. And I loved that. I because you and I have talked so many times about, she is not this little
innocent thing needing
damsel in distress, just needs her white knight. No, she is a badass, deep in the gray character who, the moment she's coming to terms with who she is, and she can do great things. She can do bad things for very good causes, and she's gonna be amazing when she hits her peak with that, and she's moving towards it, and she's it's what makes her so good at her job.
To catch one, you have to become one. To catch monster, you need to be a monster. And I think that the realization when they all try to stop protecting the kids is like, the kids are like them.
Yeah.
Instead, they would be better off, and that's a choice that Tom and Liz made, is we're going to keep Agnes with us, and we're going to just raise her as who she is.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't need to raise this little angel. I mean, let her be a kid as long as she can be, but she's going to be raised with them, with her parents, with the parents that love her, parents that want to raise her correctly, and do as best as they can for her. But that doesn't mean they're not going to teach her self-defense. It doesn't mean that she's not going to learn to shoot a gun pretty early, that she's not going to learn how to manipulate and to work things.
Steal,
yeah, exactly.
be undercover.
But guess what? I mean, these two people that are trying to be better, that are trying to be, that are balanced out in the gray, and honestly, the balance there is better almost than these people that are trying to be so good, because they're never going to reach that. And they, like wrestler has been doing, they're going to keep rubber banding back and swaying back and forth.
Especially when they're in that world. I mean, if you're in a regular world, you probably can't manage quite well to be the black and white. But when people move in the spheres, it's people move, that's just not an option. And even Liz, they sent her with this grifter in Nebraska, and she ended up being just a badass criminal, just the same.
So
how about the parallel of the burning of the passports?
Exactly where I was going.
I saw that scene and I'm like, oh my God, he's burning them.
And so, I mean, it was just so parallel to Tom. It really was with season 2. And it was part of the passports, just like Tom, the ones that were done, that Kate had done in. Those were the ones that Bud had done in. People that they trusted, people that they loved, people that they, I don't know about loving Bud, but as well as he
did in his way.
In a way,
there was a lot of hurt when he says,
"Yeah,
you raised me. I'm not just another operative."
It's a warped love that he had for Bud, because he didn't have any foundation to understand how to love somebody. But yeah, I loved that parallel when it came about. It made me so happy.
Did you? We covered Dom, but we didn't cover this, and I was interested in covering it. Is that Kirk doesn't know about Dom either, and if you think about it, Dom doesn't even refer to the supposed husband of her daughter. Never even says, "Hey, have you left her alone and keep it in your pants? They wouldn't have had this problem." No, there is zero. I mean, so that is, which lets me to believe that Katerina is anything but a KGB agent. In fact, there was a very interesting tweet about, some things about Requiem that Cerrone addressed, and one of those is, who is the man that she kills? That the Russian she kills. It says is just what is the word? I just want to see so I can say random adversary. So
Russian adversary. It was a Russian adversary.
No, but his answer is random adversary. Who was the Russian man Katerina killed? And he answered himself, random adversary. Main purpose was to reveal that Kate that Katerina was a spy. Now, that's a Russian Soviet intelligence guy. And she describes him as an adversary. So that is getting my theory that Katerina was really not a KGB agent. Right there.
I don't know.
So I did another little mystery dance.
We'll see.
I think we covered bath death. I just hope they don't do that, but I think they will.
Well, John's made it pretty clear. I mean, unless he just decides to go back on it. I mean, I do hope what they do, unless they decide to go back on it, which I'm okay with. Hey, if you guys want to go back on what you said in the article, we're okay with that, if that means Baz coming back. But I hope they give him a funeral or something. I really need some sort of closure for Baz, instead of just hey, look, he's bleeding out on the street. We don't know what happened to him. I feel like he's too much of a fan favorite to do that too. He needs.
He was in the video for Agnes.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. I desperately need something.
How about bringing him back?
Yeah, I'm better with that.
He's a cool character.
I'm better with that.
He's a cool character.
I think that feels less possible than at least giving us some closure. If nothing else, I want some closure.
Yeah. So in this episode, we have covered every single symbol that we have in the blacklist. We have the Platts, we have the Waters, we have the Russians, we have the magic.
Music?
Huh?
Musical instruments? We've talked about that before.
Yes. No, there was no musical instruments.
So speaking of water, speaking of plunging to your death in water, see, I can link that.
That was a great scene.
Oh, it broke my heart. But, and I always feel like I'm so hard on Red that when I'm proud of him, I need to give him the major kudos. I was so proud of him when she's sitting there goading him into killing her, because she's thinking this is her last resort. You know, he's gonna kill her, and then Liz is gonna tell Tom, and Tom's gonna deliver the thing, and all of it's gonna work out. And he goes, but that's the thing, Kate. It was a mistake to do it the first time. I'm not gonna repeat that. And I'm just going, oh, Red, yay, growth. I was so proud. I had kind of felt like he'd been going towards that he felt like it was a mistake, but he didn't want to voice it because that's just not the world he lives in. He can't voice that kind of stuff. But to hear him voice that, to hear him say, to be there and to be in that moment and that decision to be like, I can't and I won't, was just beautiful. It was perfect for him. And like, as much as I hate to see her go, I feel like at this point we all knew Kate was going at the end of I didn't deal with a lot of feelings until after the episode. Last week I made a Liz music video, and that I dealt with a lot of feelings about Kate that I had to work through. I've got a lot of conflicting feelings. I love Kaplan. I do. I really like
She was
her.
a great character, and there is no bigger enemy than the enemy within.
Yeah, and that's true. It's true, but I dearly love her, and I'm going to miss her horribly. But I also dearly love Baz. I'm gonna miss him horribly.
Oh, I think that we will still get some Kate. I think in backstories.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, and this is, I remember when I went to Crazy Face. Well, the Crazy Face was this. I've been reading in a lot of Reddit stories, and I've had a couple of people in Tumblr and nobody in Twitter really says about that there are plot holes in here. And then what I counteracted is I listed every plot hole that there has been on since season 1. And I said they're not plot holes. You know, how Berlin came to be in possession of Tom's contract. Why did Berlin believe that Red had done this to his daughter? There are plot holes in the Kirk stories. There are plot holes everywhere. And I say they're not plot holes. These are the final threads that are left on the ground. Mm-hmm. And when it comes the last season, we're going to see how Fitch and Berlin and the Cabal and Rostov are all connected into one final thing.
Wait, we saw in these episodes that,
yes.
Tanita from season 1, that was brought back around. They have a habit of bringing things back around seasons later and going, this is it. This is how this is tying back in. And you're like, and some people are like, well, they just did that to make, because people are complaining. Well, that's how writing works. They've got these ties that they've probably got lists and lists and lists of them, of these things that they have to tie back in. Like, I know on a small scale, I work on plot points, that I've got these notes that says, okay, I've gone back and reread my stuff, and I have to handle this, this, and this before the end of the story. And if I do that as a writer, that is a third of what these people do, then I know that they've got, and I used to not feel that way about them, because I heard stories about how they just kind of toss things around and this and that, and I think that they're very flippant with the way they talk about it sometimes, their writing process. I think they're very detailed. I think they are very, very detailed.
I'm already seeing those little things being left right there for picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this is not just toss. They put them down, and if possible, they manage to make very little noise. There's no splash as they drop them in the water.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I am.
I have a feeling this season 5 might be the last one, though.
I don't know. I hope
it gets to 6 at the most.
Yeah, I agree with that. The thought of Blacklist ending makes my heart hurt so badly.
I rather wanted to end when it's really strong, and I hope they just wrap it in a very, very strong. I mean, I do think that there is enough to wrap they can get to season 6 and still be very good, because they still gotta wrap up all of Redemption. Yeah, and that's gonna come back, because that Katerina and Scotty knew one another, and that there is a connection between Red and Howard. They think so much alike.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe I hope 6 seasons. I would much prefer looking at 2 seasons rather than 1, because it just really hurts my heart to think that this show would be over. But I agree that wrap it where it's supposed to be wrapped versus
artificially extending things.
Yeah, no, never do that.
So I think we have wrapped this episode. Yeah. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so. Oh yes, I had one last thing. I do have one last thing in here. Liz and the way she switched. Because when she walked up to Kate when she was sitting by the seaside, and she says, Mr. Kaplan. She's calling her Mr. Kaplan. And as she's sitting there, she doesn't call her anything. But as she's approaching, she calls her Mr. Kaplan. In the car on their way after their talk, after she chose to go with her, she starts calling her Kate. And so I don't know if it was a profiler manipulation tactic, in which she was kind of calming her and this and that. Or if, because she talked to Cooper later, she's like, Mr. Kaplan was my nanny. Even if she doesn't remember anything about her, I wonder if those feelings are there. That this woman that played Go Fish with her, that told her, that she's loved and she's wise, and that affirmed her, that loved her, that she loved in return. I'm wondering if nothing else, if the memories themselves didn't return, if those feelings did. Because she didn't pull away, and she told her, she said, you're scaring me. And I don't think it was as much, I think it was the feelings that everything she was saying brought about that were terrifying Liz, that she felt drawn.
I think it was something else, but yeah, I don't know. I think that we should say, at least I should say, I thought that Megan Boone did a phenomenal job in this episode. This was really a hard one, and she had those beautiful scenes with Kate.
Yeah, they were great. She did a very good job.
And that beautiful scene with Red, and that was so. What I loved about the final scene with Red and Liz before he goes into the chase of the suitcase, the bag of bones, is that in all the other times that Liz have embraced Red, it had been Red embracing her.
That's not.
It had been. But yeah, I mean, even if she initiated, Red has been the strong one. Red had been the one giving comfort.
I don't know. I didn't see it that way when he came back after Kirk had him. I didn't see that.
No, you're right.
I didn't see that as one or the other. I saw that as very much like this one, where she initiated, and Honestly, he was kind of the one leaning into it, and I very
Yes.
much felt like it in this one as well, but did you notice that she didn't close her eyes? I mean, he always, when he hugs her, usually both of them have their eyes closed, they're in the moment. It's Megan and James are both very good with it. They have very...
She closed him at the end.
But it was that look. She was very distraught over it, and I think it says a lot about Liz in the place that she's at. She loves Red. She appreciates him as her father.
Her father.
Yeah, exactly. The devil is her father. She loves her father, but that doesn't make him any less of a devil. And I think that is a really conflicted spot for her. And I think that goes back to earlier in season 4 where she didn't want Tom working for Red.
I think it was also in this. You're right. You're totally right. In that one, he kind of goes into it, but in this time, it was a feel that he actually almost melts into her. It was he had been so afraid, and James Spader thoroughly, completely mastered that scene in a beautiful way. I mean, it was so understated. The fact that they chose to have him saying nothing except I prefer a liquid, which is a way of saying, yes, I did all this, but please don't say, let's just not call it broke. I mean, he's not referring to any of the real things. That is an acceptance without being soapy that I appreciated enormously. And then the fact that he kind of like melts into this embrace, and he was so scared. Red was so scared.
And I think he's going to continue to be scared because he knows there are other things out there. I said, there's something big enough that he's willing to be, because he said at the beginning, he said, knowing the truth about you, I'm not going to be verbatim on this, but basically knowing the truth about your father will put you in danger. Mm-hmm. And so...
I thought it was maybe because you would try to save him.
Yeah, you made that post. It was brilliant. I loved it. The talking about Kirk because of who she thought he was, that she'd try to save him, and maybe that's something Red's afraid of for their own relationship.
Well, remember that this face to me was very similar to when he's sitting in the car in Madeline Pratt in Earl King, and she says, do not do this, and she's like, yeah, but I care for you. And he's like, yeah, great. Don't do this.
Yeah.
Because I think he's afraid that in one time, and I wonder if that is something that she did already in The Night of the Fire, that she did something that saved him. And in doing that, she got burned or something.
Maybe.
To make me brave.
But I mean, a 4-year-old's not going to drag her, father out of the burning house.
I'm interested to learn about the fire. I think that the next season, I have a feeling that the next season might be the last one. I just have that feeling, and it's so...
Yeah, but don't say it. Don't say it. I don't want to hear it. La la la, plugging my ears.
I think it is, but either way, I think that once we start picking up things, I think so far, all I can say is my theory stands. So I had to adjust a few things. Sam is not an ambassador. Sam was a grifter, so he was a criminal. Hey, I'm adjusting all the time. But, so far...
I had to adjust a few for redemption. It's fine. It happens. I still gotta make my posts. I've got it sitting in my drafts of all the stuff that I had to adjust for redemption.
So what are you gonna do if Carla turns out to be Katerina?
Then I will bow to your brilliance. It's...
No, the scream is going to... Everybody's gonna need to wear, ear muffles. Because the scream is gonna be heard in the globe.
Watch... If that ended up happening, watch it be the weekend I'm in DC, in New York.
Oh yeah. If that happens, since I'm the only one saying that, I expect the crew of the Blacklist over here to my door.
Hey, I've called a few things. They've never come knocking on my door.
You mean that I shouldn't expect them?
No, I don't think so.
No. Oh, well, I cling to my hope.
Yeah, you know. If they do, just send them my way too, okay? All right, well, I think that about wraps us up.
We may do another season 4 recount of the whole season. We will let you know when this will be done,
Yeah.
so you can tune in.
Yeah,
And
just keep... Oh, sorry.
Happy theorizing and happy gifting.
Yeah, and happy Memorial Day. It's if you're stateside, then it's Memorial Day weekend. Be safe, be happy, enjoy your families, and thank you to the troops that it's memorializing. And so you can catch us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. And we love to chat, and we will let you know when to expect the analysis of the 4th season and of Redemption. I think we're going to kind of cover everything, so it may be a 2-parter.
Yeah, maybe that would be a 2-parter of the whole season.
Which was basically just a very long season 4.
Yes, I'm going to miss it.
Oh, God. Redemption.
And with that,
all right.
see you the next time.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.